that at the end of the day, Finland and Sweden will have an effective and efficient accession process, that Turkey's concerns can be addressed. Finland and Sweden are working directly with Turkey to do this, but we're also talking to the Turks to try to help facilitate. I spoke with my counterpart today. Secretary Blinken is meeting with his counterpart, perhaps as we speak, in New York. And we feel very good about where this will track to. And President Biden will express that confidence, as we believe the President of Finland and Prime Minister of Sweden will express that confidence tomorrow.
William Lawrence joins us from Washington. He is a professor of political science and international affairs at the American University. Professor, thank you very much for joining us here on TRT World. Now, the Turkish foreign minister has made it very clear that Türkiye needs security guarantees, which indicate that Finland and Sweden especially, do not arm the Syrian wing of the PKK terrorist organization, the YPG. Help us understand, in your view, what kind of role can the U.S. play in ensuring that Türkiye gets these guarantees?
Well, the U.S. can cut a deal. They can mediate a deal. It's very, very tricky because the Kurdish forces in Syria were part of the coalition that opposed Assad, even though they were linked to the groups that threatened the Turkish state. And so that's a long-standing security issue that can't be thoroughly resolved now. Also, it's happening outside of the territory of any of these countries. In terms of Kurdish presence in Sweden, and PKK presence in Sweden, it's not a presence as an organization, but there are Kurdish leaders who've been, for example, in the Swedish parliament, and for Turkey to say, well, you can't do that, is kind of an interference in internal Swedish and Finnish affairs. But Turkey has very serious and legitimate security issues that need to be addressed and can be addressed, and that's why I think Jake Sullivan and the head of NATO, Stoltenberg, are so confident that a deal can be made, because Turkey can be given security guarantees without imposing its will on other countries, and that's what needs to be negotiated.
But Professor Lawrence, why has it taken so long for Sweden and Finland to address Turkiye's concerns? Now, the PKK is recognized as a terrorist organization, not just by Turkey, but also by the United States and also the European Union. Both Finland and Sweden are part of the EU. So how come this terrorist organization is still thriving within these two countries?
Well, A, because they didn't need to, and B, you have Kurds all over Europe and in the United States. So it's not a systematic, purging of these Kurds from some countries and then acceptance in others. It's much more complicated. But as EU members, there was no obligation on Finland or Sweden to make amends with Turkey and to work out an arrangement with Turkey. Now, if they want to join NATO, there needs to be some kind of negotiation. And of course, there's disagreement over which Kurds are true threats and which Kurds are lesser threats. Turkey tends to lump groups together that others might divide into the worst threats and the less threats. But all of this can be negotiated. Now, I don't think there'll be extraditions, for example, of wanted people to Turkey. I don't think that's normally what would happen in this type of situation. But guarantees can be made. Guarantees can be given. And this is all about increasing the security architecture of Europe in a way that benefits all countries. And I know for a fact that Turkey wants Finland and Sweden to be part of NATO if these issues can be resolved, and that the NATO, it will be stronger by doubling the length of the NATO border with Russia and by bringing in capable military forces from these countries. So again, I think it's wrong to see this as just a Turkish negotiating position, and the Croatians' objections are being viewed in a similar manner. These are legitimate issues and not just negotiating positions. But on the other hand, there is a deal to be made here that can help Turkey's security be guaranteed and be protected, just as Finland and Sweden also need their security guaranteed and protected.
Okay, Professor Lawrence, before I let you go, I just want to make sure I get this right. Are you indicating that as part of the EU, Sweden and Finland were not obliged to take actions against a recognized terrorist organization, the PKK?
Well, I'm not an expert on internal EU law vis-a-vis terrorist organizations, but as I understand it, the national designations are more important than the collective designations. So it's up to each country to have its own individual national level designations and national level policies. That's why, for example, some countries will put the Houthis on the terrorism list or the IGRC in Iran, but other countries won't, and they're not bound by their alliances to recognize groups as terrorists or not terrorist groups. But this is a more, I think, in the end, a geopolitical negotiation that has to take place, rather than a set of laws that have been broken or laws that need to be followed. And frankly, Sweden in particular, more than Finland, has been an acceptor of a lot of refugees from the Middle East. And when you accept refugees, sometimes in the mix, you get people that may be threats to other countries or even threats to the country they're arriving in. So these, again, are calculations the Swedes and the Finns never really had to be made, nor did they necessarily want to make them. And this forces them to confront, security threats within their midst. And certainly Turkey's objections will be seriously considered by all the NATO countries now that this issue's been raised.
All right, Professor William Lawrence, it's always a pleasure speaking to you, sir. Thank you very much for talking to us here on TRT World.